Put this off long enough.
I know.
It's time to do it.
9 more accidents since last week.
I know. Get in there and do it. Godspeed. You can do it.
It's an hour's worth of material.
You gotta start now. Onward.
Sunday night, July 9, 2023. Dan Grider, Probable Cause. Glad to have you with us tonight in the live chat room in this Sunday evening traditional accident recap. And you know, there's been 9 more fatal accidents in general aviation since last night, since I last sat in this chair last Sunday night. Here they are. I'm going to put them on the screen. I'm going to show them to you in real life, and also the ones from June. We're going to go over those. All those are going to be in this video. I promise we're going to get to it. We've got a lot of housekeeping items to take care of before we get there. I appreciate you jumping in here. These videos, I've gotten a lot of grief over taking the videos down. I got a lot of grief over monetization and those concepts. We're going to talk about that real quick. I do not want to monetize, and I appreciate those who have jumped in here and said, please just monetize your videos. I can't do that. I don't want to do that. Monetization puts ads on the videos. Half the time, YouTube demonetizes these type of videos anyway. You would be afflicted with ads, and nobody would get any money. This is a better way to do it. This is your continuing education. These videos are free for those who want to see them in a timely manner. They're on the air for at least 5 or 6 days. Set your subscription, set your alerts. You've got about 5 days to see this video. The last video did very well. This format is working very, very well, and I have a tremendous amount of people that are watching these. Last Sunday night's videos got 1.4 million minutes watched. Here's the graphic for it on the screen here. And I'm going to continue this format. I do not want to monetize. My idea instead is for you to donate a very, very small tip if you're able. If you're not able, please don't. $1 or $2 is fine. I've had several of you donate $5 or $6, and I sure appreciate that. Not required. I don't want to break anybody. A very simple transaction via Zelle, PayPal, Cash App, Venmo. That's the way this is going to work. I'm not a YouTuber designed to make a salary or a living off of YouTube. I want to try to get my expenses covered. Speaking of expenses, I'm traveling down to Gulf Shores this week, traveling at my own expense to go down there and speak to an EAA chapter, Gulf Shores Pilots Association chapter. Here's the graphic for it. If you'd like to attend, I'll be down there Tuesday evening. It's free. You can attend. Just send this guy an email if you'd like to show up at 6 p.m. Central Time in Gulf Shores, and here's how you can get some more contact information on that. All those things that I do, the travel, the videos, everything, are totally at my own expense, and I appreciate your contribution of $1 or $2 per video if you like it and if you're able. And I sincerely appreciate all the people who have jumped in here and helped on that. You know, Dylan helped me with the intro out here, just designed to be a little bit funny. Dylan, I got 2 kids, Dylan and Drew, great kids, and I want you to know those boys lost their mother 12 years ago right now due to cancer, and I've raised both boys. They're both pilots. They're both coming up through the ranks, and they're both doing fine. We have hung on together as a family, and we're doing fine. Dylan is a sweetheart. You could not ask for a nicer, more courteous, kind kid. He's smart, and he helps dear old dad with everything. We just got back from Arkansas. We went out to visit my parents for my mom's 91st birthday, and Dylan went out there, and while we were out there, we happened to catch a scene from another airplane mishap that occurred out there. All that's contained in this video, and I'm going to show all that to you. Let's get on with the whole concept here. I appreciate all your comments about monetization, and I appreciate that a lot. I'm not going to monetize. I'm not going to do Patreon. I'm not going to do sponsorship. So let's keep on going the way we are. I generated several $100s off of last video, and that's enough to give me encouragement to keep on going. If you're able to help out, let's go on. I want to talk to you about the purpose of this channel. Before we get into the accidents, the purpose of this channel is AQP. It's called Advanced Qualification Program. I didn't start it, and I didn't invent it, and I don't own it, and I'm not selling it. It's free. I want you to know about Advanced Qualification Program. I've got this thing here from that other video that we did. If you remember, AQP is about staying alive. Your pilot's license and your FAA credentials that you use are the skill sets you use to get a certificate or a rating. Those are maneuvers that you use to acquire a rating. What about the things that are going to happen to you as a pilot? The unknowns, the surprises, all those surprise scenarios that could happen to you as a pilot. That's what AQP is about. FAA is about becoming alive. AQP is about staying alive. The airlines figured out that this is a very good scenario-based method of conditioning pilots to be responsive quickly to each scenario as it occurs. I want you to think about AQP. It's free. All it is continuing education. That's actually the theme of these videos, and that's why they're only on the air for 5 or 6 days at a time. This is continuing education. I want you to think about watching these videos or forwarding these videos to a friend or loved one or a son or a daughter or a brother, somebody that's flying that could use this opportunity to learn from these videos. Every week, we have a fresh new set of fatals and unfortunate situations of things that individuals did wrong in their airplanes. This video is crammed full of those. I'm going to show you exactly what those were. I've got the stuff from June to catch up and make some amendments on, and then I've got all of July's, especially the jet crash in California. I'm going to show you exactly what happened with that. So let's get into it. In this edition, we've got this Cessna 172 that flew into the high wires. We went out and replicated that. I'm going to show you that video. I got a check-in from Blanco Lirio. You can see my conversation with Blanco. These videos that he and I make and some other people, we're all in constant communication. I talk to Blanco every now and then. He calls me or I call him, and we try to share information and help each other out and feed each other with the information. The jet crash, Blanco wanted to get that up and on the air before I did, which is totally fine. He is very good at his early surmising of what happened and the facts associated with each. I normally try to hang on 2 or 3 days after a crash has happened and get a little bit better look at it. This one in California, the jet crash that killed 6 the other night, I've got all that and all that's coming. Let's take a look at haters. I've got a special hater. I'm going to start doing a feature on special haters. This guy's name is Dino Styles, and here's the copy I saw from Facebook. I'm going to give you the backstory of this. Dino Styles, here he is right here. Dino Styles posted this on Facebook, and I get this kind of stuff a lot. So I'm going to show you where Dino works. This is his company, and I'm going to show you a video from Dino so you can see exactly who he is. Here's Dino on camera.
Hey folks, so just reaching out to everybody on Facebook land, hoping that this message can get shared around. So my family's business, which is a drug treatment center located in Rockville, Maryland, is currently looking for several drug addictions counselors. We had a couple of counselors leave us to go get the therapy licenses, which we always encourage growth, but, you know, it does leave us with a little bit of a deficit.
Now, the interesting thing is that Dino is a huge supporter of the Huey that crashed up in West Virginia last year, and I think that's why he hates me. I was pretty vocal about the fact that this Huey tour operator should not have been conducting tour operations down this low in the ravines. And take a look at this footage here. This is how they operated that Huey, and they hit a wire. They killed 6 people. And because of it, Dino was not very happy with me because I said tour operators carrying the general public for fare-paying passengers should not be taking these kind of risks and flying a Huey this low level in this kind of terrain down amongst the power lines. There's no reason to be down there and doing that. So because of that, let's think about this. What happened? I know Dino hates me, and that's fine. I'm going to send him a ball cap because I like him. I think he's a fine individual. I like him. Here's Dino. Now, what happens whenever the general public gets hurt? Well, let's talk about Senate Authorization Bill 1939. It's just coming around. It just got authorized. Here's the steps that it goes through. This is the General Aviation Reauthorization Bill. Here it is, and it's coming down the pike. So here's the status of it, and I'll show you this right here. This is the steps that it goes through before the president finally signs it and it becomes law. This is going to become law. Let's take a look at a couple sections here. Sections in here for sport parachute jumping and tour operators. I tell you what, tour operators and sport parachute jumping is all about to be totally changed. You've got about 3 years before it becomes law. All of you guys are going to have to be certified air carriers to do this. It's going to be a complete mess. Why is it? Is because the general public got hurt, and now there's new laws that's going to make it completely restrictive to even do this. I'm telling you, this is exactly how it happens. I'm not a fan of more regulation. I'm just telling you, this is the government process. Whenever the general public gets hurt, we're going to enact a bill, we're going to enact Senate, we're going to enact all this government stuff because people got hurt. This tour operator and sport parachuting regulations are coming, and there's nothing you can do about it. This is on a railroad, and it's going to happen. It's because we killed innocent people. We did stupid stuff with our airplanes, and that's exactly what's happening. I'm sorry, Dino. I'm sorry that you don't like me. I am sorry for the loss of life that occurred in West Virginia in that Huey helicopter, June of 2022, but we shouldn't have been down there. We should have used better decision making, better management. We should not have had that helicopter down there. The sport parachuting thing, all these things, all these accidents with the tour operators carrying the general public, fare paying. There's been way too many people killed, way too many air show accidents, way too many public deaths. That's when your government gets involved, and that's what happened. You know, you got a hat coming to you, and I sure appreciate you. I'm going to send you a lot of love because it looks like you're a big guy and you could sure use some. So here it comes. So I was out in Arkansas, minding my own business. My phone rang, and it was Blanco the other day, and we just turned on a camera to capture this so you can see. Here's my initial phone call with Blanco concerning the jet crash, which I'm eventually going to get to and get to talk about. Here it is. Today's Saturday morning. When did you find out about it?
Just this morning.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in the DTSB headquarters with Will Grider, my assistant. You probably know him, but we're messing with some data, as a matter of fact, right now. But are you thinking about doing it?
Thinking about it.
I think you should. I'll jump on here and see if I can feed you any information. I'll probably only just include it in my report on Sunday night, I imagine. What was the end number again?
Look up November. Where'd it go? Stand by.
891. I got it.
819. 819 Kilo Romeo.
Yeah, it's Prestige. I know the operator, but I will check into it, and I'll get my best guy on it right away.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, let me know if I can help you.
Okay, thanks.
All right, see you. Bye.
Mm-hmm.
Next, I want to talk about November 44 Hotel. This is a Diamond airplane up in New York. Engine failure. The air traffic control guy did a really nice job. I'm going to let you listen to the audio and see the tape on this, courtesy of another YouTube channel. This guy did a nice job. Now, what I'm really concerned about is that this individual did not make a normal emergency landing. He crashed his airplane on the lawn, destroyed it. Now, he's going to be okay. He turned a simple emergency with plenty of options available. He turned this into a complete crash and destroyed the airplane. Should have been a very simple power off landing. Is this a proficiency thing? I think it is. I think he stalled his airplane low altitude and it smashed in. I'm really surprised that the guy is alive, but here it is right here. And I'm going to show you the video footage of this for this guy from 44 Hotel. This was just from a couple of weeks ago.
November 44 Hotel. Said you're having an engine issue?
Emergency, North New York approach.
44 Hotel, understand you have an emergency. Is your engine still working? Are you generating any power? 44 Hotel. New York, how do you hear?
I hear you, but I'm going down.
44 Hotel, you need to start looking for a field to land in, okay? You got 1,000 feet, look for a field.
I'm trying, but I don't...
44 Hotel, just keep flying the airplane, okay? Focus on flying the airplane.
Aviation insurance is going to get very, very difficult to get in the near future. Here's a very quick snippet from a guy that I ran across. I didn't know him before, but he and I happened to be on the same flight, and he recognized me, so we got talking about aviation insurance. The aviation underwriters got together January 1 of this year, and the new aviation underwriters guidelines are out and published. It's going to be very difficult for general aviation persons to get their policies renewed. Renewal prices are going to go skyrocketing, and initial insurance is going to be very, very select, including 100 hours make and model is coming up. Let's listen to this. Tell me some of the stuff that you were telling me on the plane that I found really interesting. Some underwriting guidelines have changed as of 1/1 this year. What are those guidelines?
That's correct. So underwriting, as most people are becoming aware of, is becoming incredibly restrictive with aviation insurance. As of last year, they renegotiated their reinsurance terms, which means most insurance companies are having to take more of a loss. They're not getting to share that as much with other reinsurers.
Right.
There's only really 12 or 13 companies out there that do aircraft hull and liability. And so one of the ways that they are restricting or reducing the amount of losses that they're taking is they're making it more difficult to get insurance. That includes 500 hours minimum for total time. They're wanting to see 100 hours in make and model, and then they're also wanting to see, and they're also restrictive to senior pilots. So pilots that are age 70 and older, there's only 2 companies that will cover you if you're 70 and older.
Right.
And they're also starting to say that no multi-engine for pilots that are 70 and older.
So a lot of new restrictions coming down the pike. Some guys are going to be seeing some
You're welcome
absolute
aboard if you need additional
sticker
time or
shock
assistance
at
at this
renewal
time
time,
for flight
because
3514 to Seattle.
really they can't deny your renewal, but they can raise the price where they just simply price you out of renewing it.
And that's correct. We're seeing rate increases averaging about 25%. And it's really, at this point, the insurance companies, they're not able to flat out deny certain people, but they can basically restrict the amount of new business that they're coming in, and hopefully price people out of it, because as you said, when it gets too expensive, more and more people are deciding to go without insurance.
Towards the end of this, I've got a best recommendations like I did last week, and I appreciate you hanging around to look for those. The point of all these videos is to get some takeaways, and somebody pointed that out at one point, that we ought to summarize what are the takeaways off these videos. What are some things that we could learn and start doing better? I'm going to cut to the 172 chase who cut the wire. This is a 172, and I'm going to show you the information on this. This guy came flying into Siloam Springs, Arkansas, SLG. Here's his airplane. Here's a picture of him. He flew way too low. So what we did was we put a 172 in the air, and we went out and reflew day VFR. We flew to see what it looked like, and here's the power lines. Now I've built, here's the approach. Here it is from an actual 172 flying, showing too low. Now this 172 did not actually get too low, was not in danger of touching the wire, but here's what the approach would have looked like. You can see how far away the guy was from the airport when he hit the wire. When he hit the wire with his propeller. Here's a picture of the propeller. He hit the wire, the cable snapped and went around the backside of the airplane. However, the power plant still worked, and he flew the remaining 1.2 miles to get to the airport, and he landed safely, although he had no rudder. Check this out.
This is the rudder. I'm not quite sure how it sustained this kind of damage without affecting the stabilizer, but I'm assuming when the cable broke, you can see on the leading edge, it dented up the leading edge, the power cables did. And what I'm thinking is, when it hit the leading edge, it snapped the cable and whipped around and hit the front side of the stabilizer and cut this up. But he did manage to get it on the ground somehow, but I'm not really sure how he managed that.
So here's a picture of the flight aware of this. You can see how low he is out here. And now I'm going to show you a side picture of the Google Earth picture of where he was. This is his path, and this is where he was supposed to be. 300 feet per nautical mile is standard. Look how low he was. He was this far away and hit this power line. He hit it. He hit the top line of this high tension, high voltage power line with the spinner and did not trip the airplane up. It did not crash, and it's totally amazing. The guy was 75 years old, and he made it. Brand new pilot, became a pilot, I believe, last year sometime. We're very thankful that he is alive and okay today. But we went out and recreated this. I want you to know, stabilized approach, especially at night, red over white. Red over red, you're dead. Red over white at the least. Sometimes on a long runway, you can even go a little bit white over white if you just want to be sure you're not about to bump into anything. There's no reason to be at night in an unfamiliar airport. There's no reason to be red over red. I'm going to show you the next video, the next section on this other airplane. This was a Fatal. Take a look at July, and this is number on the accident chain here. This is number 8, November 4922 Golf at 172 in California. This is a non-stabilized approach, and I'm going to show you the same graphic for his approach. He made a night approach to a shorter runway at night, came in from a trip, was very low. I don't think he stalled it, and I don't think he hit anything. I think he just flew it into the ground out there. And just a reiteration of this airport had no VASI or PAPI, and it did have very dim runway lights along the side, but that's about all it has. Your decision making. What are you doing out there at 10 o'clock at night in a 172 trying to come into a 30,000 foot runway? You better be very familiar with the airport. You might try using some electronic glide slope indication like an LPV or a poor man's glide slope or something to give you some vertical guidance to tell you how high to be, or maybe just DME off the end of the runway to tell you every mile you ought to be at least 300 feet off the end of that runway. Use something to figure out what the appropriate glide path is coming into this airport. Don't bump into stuff. Don't stall. Nighttime operations, you're going to have to be a lot more careful. As of today, July 9, the Jim Tweedo, November 91361 Cessna crash still does not have an NTSB case number assigned. There's no preliminary, there's no information, there's no pictures, there's nothing on this. I'm going to show you a quick excerpt from somebody else's YouTube channel that also talked about what really happened out here. A former Bush pilot talked about this. Pressing your luck. There's no old pilots. There's no bold pilots. I'll leave a link to his YouTube channel in the description so you can watch the entire video. But most likely, in my guess, this is simply a matter of not enough space to get the airplane airborne. Very risky. Sometimes you're weighing out headwind versus downhill, what to do, carrying the load. It's not necessarily a matter of being over gross as it is being overweight. Not enough running room to get the airplane airborne, and the allotted space to get it airborne is probably all that happened. I'm really astounded that there's still zero information from NTSB or anybody else. Not a single picture has surfaced so far of the crash site, the crash scene, where it was. All I can tell you is that of all the fixed-wing people in Alaska, nobody volunteered to go out there in their fixed-wing airplane and land back in the same place to help Jim. That tells me a lot right there. I don't think it was probably possible to get that airplane back out of there with those people and that bear and their gear and all that kind of stuff. I just don't think it was possible. I am, once again, very sorry for this loss of life, this tragic loss of life. I hope that we can learn something from these type of accidents and pressing our luck. The margin of error in some of these operations, this 135 operation out there, carrying people out of there, the margin of error on this was obviously zero, or in this case, probably a little bit negative. Just didn't happen. I'll let you know as soon as I know something on an official basis, but as of right now, that's all I got on Jim Tweedo, November 91361.
What typically happens, and it's unfortunate, is that you accelerate down the runway and you get to a point where you have to continue. And as you continue, you'll get the aircraft airborne in the ground effect, but then once you get out of ground effect, you've essentially gotten too slow, right? You're too slow. So now you're on the backside of the power curve, and the propeller is what's holding you in the air, not the wind over the wings. So you put yourself in a terrible position in a slow flight, and it's very difficult to get out of that without giving up potential energy or essentially giving up altitude. Now, if you're on takeoff, you have no altitude and you have no speed, so you end up with a CFIT accident, essentially control flight into terrain. It's going to be interesting to see what the investigation comes up with. My best guess, which is might trigger a few of you, but just from my own experience, they're essentially going to call it a CFIT accident, possibly something to do with the weight might be an issue as well.
I captured this screenshot from Rob Sumwalt, former chairman of the NTSB. I disagree. I'll show it to you on the screen here. You'll probably have to go back and read the whole thing to get the full context of it, but he's convinced that training is the lowest form of things that need to be corrected. Automation and technology should be well above training. I think training and education and recurrent training ought to be at the very pinnacle. Our technology is actually pretty good. We just need better information, better proficiency, better operation, and better experience levels for our pilot out there. Rob, I disagree. I invite your comments, sir, and we'll see what happens. I hope to revisit that thread and watch what occurs here off of that. But Rob Sumwalt, former chairman of the NTSB, and there's his statement right there. You know, we've talked a lot about mid-airs. Mid-airs are definitely on the rise and up and coming. Make sure, if you've got an iPad, look out the windshield. It's neat to look at your iPad, but make sure you look at your iPad. You know, last week we were in the traffic pattern and made radio contact with another individual who was intercepting the downwind at a 45. They had us on iPad, but we were directly in front of them, and I said to them, "Do you have us in sight?" And he said, "Yes, we have you on our iPad." We were directly in front of them. We were not a collision threat, but I asked him second time, "Do you see us?" And he said, "Yes, I have you on my iPad." And I finally said, "Sir, look out the window and tell me that you see me." Then he looked out the window. And I think that's a very common problem. We got too many people looking down at iPads trying to use ADS-B data to figure out where the other airplane is. Look out the window, fly the airplane, get a seat of the pants, figure out where you are, use your headsets, listen on the radio, communicate with other pilots as necessary to figure it out and work it out in the traffic pattern. If you don't, if you fly around heads down, staring down at your iPad, you're going to hit somebody or you're going to get hit. It's not good. I'm sorry to be on a rant on this thing, but this is basic airmanship. This is basic. We flew around for a long time without iPads and electronics before now. Let's get back to looking out the windshield. It took me that much effort to get the other guy last week to look out his own window. Isn't that crazy? I got the July review right here. Before I do that, I'm going to get back and jump into June. So take a look at this. I'm going to put it up on the screen here for you. From June, I got a couple I'm going to talk about. November 977 RV holds slot number 1 in June. I said in-flight breakup. I don't know. For positive, the NTSB did not say. That's John Reading, age 69, in Nebraska. The airplane came out of the clouds in a car dashboard cam, captured it coming out of the clouds. I don't know why this thing would have continued its nose-down dive unless it did not have an elevator or pitch control is the only thing I can think of. A couple in common here. The full flap touch and go holding spot number 5. That's the Canadian airplane that happened in New York. That is a bad touch and go, or number 6, that is a messed up go around. It's going to be the same thing as the California crash that we're going to talk about in just a second that happened in July. The 2 buzzing ones holding spot number 6 and spot number 11. Both of them were buzzing. November 835 Bravo Charlie was an RV6, now known to be buzzing. And then spot number 11, November 854 Tango Papa, the Harmon rocket in New York. Chris Carvano, age 35, was flying that. Logan Woodworth, age 28, was flying the other one. Both of them buzzing and doing a little air show, and it got the best of them. Here's another one I want to talk about. November 3138 Kilo. That's the 182 in Idaho. That's the loss of thrust on takeoff. And this should have been a rejected takeoff. This airplane did not read the NTSB preliminary. He knew rolling down the runway that it was not making thrust. He took it into the air and it was not making power, and this thing should have been a rejected takeoff. November 14 on the list, November 91361, we've already talked about it. That's Jim Tweedo, age 68, up in Alaska. November number 19 on the list, November 7240 Yankee, that's the PA-30 in Georgia. Bobby Smith, a very strange accident, and I still don't have the answer to that. I'm still looking for clues on that. Still no further information. 3 very qualified, very nice guys on that airplane. Davey, a part of that should not have happened. Let's take a look at number 10 and number 20. Both of them out of gas on that thing. Both of them ran their airplanes out of gas, and people died. Now, let's take a look at that's the June ones that we've got. I want to also comment that the RV that we first mentioned, it was also involved in a landing accident up at Oshkosh last year. You guys going to Oshkosh, be very careful up there. Oshkosh was cited in the report as being a contributing factor towards the pressure to perform, pressure to land, pressure to get off the runway, and that's true. They're jamming so many airplanes onto that runway so fast. You have to get off. You have to go fast. You can lose control of your airplane. You can hit another airplane. Slow down a little bit. Be careful and be ready to go around. If you need to go around at Oshkosh, please go around, and don't do a messed up go around. Do a standard go around, climb runway heading, and re-enter and follow instructions and do what you're supposed to do so that you don't make it onto my report. Now I'm down to July. I'm going to zoom through these. I'm going to put them up on the screen and show them to you here. Here it is on the screen. Number 1 on the list was November 5524 Fox. That's the PA-32-300 in North Carolina. Joe Farnese, he's a doctor, age 66. Loss of thrust on takeoff. He stalled this, spun it. 5 died. Pilot plus 4 on this AQP number 11, and they're all dead. He was not ready for it. Number 2, November 1132 Quebec. This is another PA-32 up in Alaska. This is a 135 operation. The pilot survived, but 2 died. We don't have very much information other than the fact that they did fly into terrain. I was able to hear that. Number 3, November 5243 Echo. This is the 172 in California. This is Jared Newman, age 39. I'm going to dispel a couple things on this one. For sure, he was a private pilot. He did pass his private pilot check ride. He was not a student. Those were his kids in the airplane. He had given several rides that day. He was a brand new pilot. He was in a rental airplane. When he touched down, his approach was squirrely. His landing was squirrely. He hit hard. I can't tell if this was an intentional go around or or maybe an aborted landing or what it was. But in any case, after his squirrely approach and squirrely landing, he did attempt to go around. His problem was he had full flaps and he was still trimmed for landing. When he pushed the power in, it pulled it hard to the left, and that's how come he ended up way to the left. Remember, you need, during any go around, you need nose down and right rudder. Before you push the throttle in, you've got to really give it some nose down and get this airplane level with the earth and let it try to accelerate. A full flap go around with weight in the back is a very difficult maneuver. This is a messed up go around. You could call it a messed up touch and go. I'm not exactly sure yet. In any case, a tragic situation. We need to be very respectful and mournful of those families. Those children lost a dad that day. This was a great guy. He should not have messed up his go-around. He should have been rock solid on touch and goes, go-arounds, messed up go-arounds, and he wasn't. When it came time to do it, because of an improper approach and a bounce landing or something like that, he pushed the power to it and he was not ready for the response. I want you to be ready for the response. What your airplane is going to do when you mash the throttle, that nose is coming up. If you don't do anything about it, it's going to pull you left. It's going to pull the nose up, and it's going to pull you to the left. You're going to stall, and this is where he hit, and it's a horrible accident. We're going to use this as a learning opportunity. You guys out there flying and learning to fly, and you guys, even with existing private pilots, have been flying a long time. Review your go-around. Some of these high-powered airplanes, when you mash that throttle in, that nose, you got a 300 horsepower Cirrus, that nose is gonna come up. You have to really be on your game and do not allow the nose to come up. Retract the flaps slowly. Put in some right rudder. Don't let this airplane pull hard left, because that's exactly what they're going to do. Let's take a look at the next one. Number 4 is November 703 Zulu. This is 182 in Idaho. Gerald Siebert, age 70. For sure, this is a loss of thrust on takeoff. Ended up just off the end of the runway. Everybody on the ground heard the engine sputtering and failing. I'm not sure if he tried to turn around or if he just stalled it and it spun, but in any case, it didn't make it very far. He was dead on the scene.
Tonight, the sheriff's office has identified that pilot as 70-year-old Jerry Seibert. They say he was the only person on the plane and died in the crash. Officials say the Cessna 182 took off from the St. Mary's Airport this morning at 9:17 a.m. Shortly after takeoff, witnesses heard the engine sputtering and saw smoke coming from the engine. The NTSB says the pilot may have reported the engine failure over the radio. The plane went down about a quarter mile from the airport in a hayfield.
It appears the pilot attempted to return to the airport, and in the turn back is when the crash happened. It's in a hayfield about a quarter mile from the end of the runway. So this is our on-scene portion. We plan to be here for 2 or 3 days. It's our fact gathering phase. We're trying to document and gather perishable evidence, which is evidence that can change with time.
The NTSB says it's possible the plane stalled if it was attempting to turn back to the airport with little or no power, but they're still in the early stages of the investigation.
I'm not sure what the cause of the engine failure was, or if it was running roughly, or if he could have aborted earlier and known that he was having an engine problem. None of that stuff is known at this point. All I can tell you is that he ended up where most loss of thrust of takeoffs accidents occurred, just off the end of the runway in a vertical pile, and all the aircraft wreckage is located inside of about a 10-foot diameter circle. There's nothing there. He didn't fly into the wreck site. He hit the earth vertically, and that's all there is on that one. Number 5 on the list, about 11 p.m. in down near Monroe, Louisiana, in A36. I don't have any information on this other than the fact that there was 2 people on board, and that's all we know at this time. November 6th, this is all since last Sunday night. November 819, Kilo Roma. This is the citation. This is the 550 in California. We don't know for sure who was flying the airplane. I've got a couple names. I'm not going to say the names until I'm sure that next of kin has been notified and it becomes public information. I have 2 names of who I think the 2 pilots were. In any case, this airplane had already flown one missed approach, brought it back around. Remember, it was foggy, way below minimums. They were shooting an LPV approach, which takes you down to about 250 feet above the ground. Here's the problem on this. I'm going to show it to you on Google Earth. This approach is like flying a black hole approach at night. It's 4 o'clock in the morning and they're very tired. They're coming in here. This does not have strobe lead-in lights or any kind of an approach lighting system to help guide the airplane in. This airplane hit well prior and probably they were looking for a light and saw a street light, and they were already at or below minimums. And once they see a street light, you can mistake that for the runway and shove the nose forward in hopes that you're going to see the rest of the runway lights. In this case, they shoved the nose forward, and this thing hit hard. The problem was they weren't at the runway yet. They were still 500 feet early. They were at about the place where, at that speed, seeing a light would be a very welcome sight. You would see, yes, there is a light. There are several street lights and several light things that would have illuminated some kind of a glow. I think this thing was not a stall. It was not a go-around. The news indicated that this was a messed up go-around. Not true. This is the second approach. They simply got on the approach either at or below minimums, and they drove it straight in the ground, seeing what I think they probably believed was the hope of a runway light, and they went for it. That's a common mistake, is to shove the yoke forward and go for it, because if you go another 100 feet lower, all of a sudden you get to see all the lights, and there's the runway, and everything comes into view. Happens all the time. In this case, they weren't there yet. They shoved the yoke forward, and there was nothing there but black field and nothing there, and that's where they hit. Everybody died instantly. There was no pain or suffering. Everybody died instantly. It would have been over very fast. The whole airplane burned and exploded. This is a non-stabilized approach. Shouldn't have been out there. Should not have gone into this airport. And under those weather conditions, I wouldn't have taken this trip and that citation. I wouldn't have done it. I would have said, let's wait 3 hours and let's let some of this weather burn off. We'll take this thing back there in the morning. We're not going tonight. And that's aeronautical decision-making is going to keep you alive. There's no way to get these 6 lives back. A horrible loss of life out here with the citation, but I think that's pretty much all that we're going to find that's happened. This airplane hit short. It was not trying to go around. It simply drove it straight into the ground because they thought they saw something. The next one, another twin Comanche down in Texas. I'll give you the information on it here. This is November 4743 Mike, a PA-30 in Texas. Paul McBride, he's 69 years old. We don't know what happened here. I think this is a min-maneuvering. He was out doing some air work. I think he let it get slow, but can't really tell yet. Number 8 on the list, happened on the 8th. This is a Piper Aerostar, a pressurized Aerostar in Colorado. I have no information on this, who it was or how many died. I know it's a fatal out there in Colorado. Just happened yesterday. Last one on the list, this is the one we've already talked about. Happened last night, 10:01 p.m., 4922 Golf, a 172N, California. This is the non-stabilized approach. Here's the graphic again on this non-stabilized approach. Flew all the way in here and hit early, I believe. In this case, there was only one fatality on this airplane, I believe, and that was a passenger. So the pilot survived. He's probably going to be able to tell us exactly what happened. I apologize for the length of these videos. I'm not going to put any music on this one yet. I want you to know that I'm still attempting to non-monetize and keep these videos ad-free for you. I want you to like, subscribe, and set your alerts for these videos because they are time-limited. They're only going to be on the air for a few days until we get the next batch of 7 fatals. By this time, next Sunday night, there will probably be 5 or 6 or 7 more. This is continuing education. This is AQP. I'm going to tell you about these accidents the best I know, the best I have at the time. I appreciate your support. Please keep it little and keep it reasonable. I don't need a lot to help me justify my travel and work. This particular video, as long as it was, took about 30 hours to build it, to assemble the information and to build it. And I appreciate you watching. Send it to those who are flying, who are learning to fly or continuing to fly. This is continuing education, and that's the whole purpose of these videos. They're going to remain free. They're going to remain out there for you to watch in the first several days until the next one comes along. And I appreciate you going along with all that. For my tiny little, itty-bitty, fledgling YouTube channel, Dan Grider, Probable Cause.
Good?
Mm-hmm.
All right. You hop in right here. Good. You're going to say, Dad, it's time. Godspeed. What are we going to do?
Okay.
All right.
It's time. It's time to get the video done.
I know it.
It's Sunday. We got hours of editing ahead of you. Godspeed.
Here, let's do. Dad, you put this off long enough. Get in there and do your thing.
Okay. Dad, you put this off. Put this off long enough.
Try again.
Put this off long enough.
I know.
It's time to do it.
9 more accidents since last week.
I know. Get in there and do it. Godspeed. You can do it.
It's an hour's worth of material.
You gotta start now. Onward.
All right, that's good.